We're hauling Floppy and Rocky
Where are you hauling them?
to, to the killer.
Wait. Let me explain what's going on here. I need to go back a few months to kind of show you what was going on to get us to this point. Here are the Billy kids. Actually, they're Weathers now. For our goat operation to be successful, we've got to be able to market all of our kids. The females are easy. I want to keep all of them. The males, on the other hand, I've got to sell them. We've marketed our Weathers a couple of different ways. The first way we had tried was to just haul them straight to the sale, because that's kind of the simplest. When it's time to go with them, you just load them up and haul them. Then it was brought to my attention that you could haul them to the processor the same way, and that's what we did last year. We've had a slight malfunction on this feeder right here. Are those under warranty?
I don't know. Have you been mistreating my feeders?
No,
Where'd
I've
that
been
come from?
treating them like a feather.
Yeah, they're under warranty.
Yeah. Now that same processor is requiring different things for you to bring them to them. So it's changed kind of what we're doing to manage them before we can haul them to the processor. The processor is now requiring 20 or more goats before you bring them. And they prefer that they're going to be right around 60 pounds. And they want them in quote-unquote finished condition.
What's he doing? What's he doing, Floppy? Come on, goats.
If you've watched many of our videos, you know that we try to do things as natural as possible. However, when we're marketing our animals, we don't have a problem with teaching them to eat out of the bunk and things like that that are going to generate income when we get them to the sale or we get them to the processor. So this is going to be one of those new things for us with respect to goats. We've got to try to figure out how to quote-unquote get them in a finished condition before we get them to the processor. That's where Lisa and her feeders come in. So what I've done with the Billy kids is I've started them on a straight corn ration with grass. I started the goats on very little. You can't feed too much grain to ruminants in the beginning. You've got to give them a chance for their bacteria in their rumen to kind of switch over to process it better. So I started with little and I slowly graduated it to the point where I was feeding them almost 2 pounds a day. I am not an expert at feeding really any animals. So I talked to a lot of different people and got some ideas on it. Josh over at Bodart was very helpful, which led me to add some cottonseed hulls to the mix. And I just started them on corn because that was something that we had left over from one of our other enterprises here on the ranch. So it wasn't going to cost me any money. However, I will calculate that cost in when I'm trying to figure out if it made money to feed them or not. One other thing that we did while we were finishing them was similar to what we do with the goats the whole time, because that's all we know now, is we moved them. So I sectioned off little pastures as we moved along through the south end kind of the ranch. And it worked very well. It wasn't that difficult. I just used my 2-wire poly and I adjusted the size as needed. So I would monitor kind of how the goats were eating with respect to the forage. And if I felt like they needed more, I gave them a bigger pasture the next time. I typically moved them at least once a week and sometimes a little bit faster based on if I felt like they needed more forage. In other words, I made a mistake on guessing how big an area they needed. I did keep a couple of the dogs down here with them to keep them safe. Sam and Xena, and then of course Betsy was still in the area because she's kind of the Billy dog, the big Billies. So that I had that covered. One of the things that I learned on the feeders was even with Lisa's 2x4 along the top to kind of keep them from getting in it, they still ended up fouling the feeders at some point. So what I did was I started staying with them until they cleaned the corn up, which usually didn't take very long. Then I would flip the feeders over. If I left them standing up, they used them like a jungle gym, which is what goats do. They find something to jump over, to jump on, to play on, and that's just who they are. So it fouls the feeders, so I flipped them over. Consequently, I put Lisa's design and building experience to the test. Good morning. This is a big day for us. We're fixing to come down here and load up the Billy kids that we've been feeding for 60 days now on corn. And I'll go into a little more detail of kind of how we were doing it and what we were doing and the results that I've seen. But World's Greatest is with us. She's been helping. We've already been down here and pinned them, and yesterday we tagged a couple, 4 or 5 that still needed a scrapies tag, and so we got those done, and we're gonna load them and head north. Look at that. It's gonna be pretty tight.
Don't start.
Oh no, I mean we can fit them. Okay, Miss Lisa.
Oh, drop it, Joe. I'm so sorry.
We need them to go too. You gonna get behind them?
I might cry.
Hep, hep, shh, hep, hep, shh, hep, hep. One went behind the door. One went behind the door. That's no good. Watch those gates. Hold that. Okay, let's try it again. Never fails, but I guess you can't always do it perfect, huh? Hep. I'm sure they're not going to want to go in there now. Hep. Oh my word. Hep, 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 hep. Hep, 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 hep. Wow. So let's break down the results. Our corn cost us $260 a ton. We fed them almost 2 tons in the 60 days. That's a cost of $520 just for the feed. The feeders cost $224, and of course the labor was free. That's a total cost of $744 for the whole project. That breaks down to about $9.53 per goat. At the beginning, they basically weighed 50 pounds. At the end, they weighed 60. The processor paid us $3.20 a pound, so the extra 10 pounds made us $32 per goat, and that's gross. Now you remember, our expense for the feed and the feeders was $9.53 per goat. So subtract the expenses from the gross and you end up with $22.47 profit per goat. Things to remember. This doesn't take into account the gain each goat made from their forage intake for the 60 days, or the extra labor involved with the whole process. So in summary, for us, it's the best option. If we haul them straight to the sale, they're going to kill us as far as comparing them to a boar and a boar cross, which is what they do in Texas and in Oklahoma. So for us to add a little value for our processor, we can feed them a little bit, get them in a more fleshy state, and the processor likes them, and we get a little better money. Actually, we get a lot better money. The other thing Lisa learned, do not name the goats. Thanks for watching. We'll do it again next year, I'm sure, maybe in a different form or fashion, so stay plugged in and we will give you the results. Thanks again. See you next time.